Only monsters play God. Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein and the Tragedy of Creation. Frankenstein is not a horror film in the traditional sense. It is a lament, a requiem for human vanity, for the fragile illusions of progress, and for the eternal ache of wanting to be loved by the very forces that created us. Few modern filmmakers have the audacity to revisit a myth as overexposed as Frankenstein. Fewer still have the sensitivity to find, within its bones, a heartbeat that feels new. Del Toro does not adapt Mary Shelley's novel so much as he answers it. He strips away the cultural noise accumulated since 1931, the bolts, the lightning, the caricature of monstrosity, and returns to the text's philosophical nucleus. Shelley's original work was never about a mad scientist or his shambling creation. It was about the hubris of intellect and the spiritual loneliness that follows invention. Del Toro understands this, and like Shelley, he sees tragedy not in the grotesque, but in the human. Oscar Isaac's Victor Frankenstein is not the elegant Swiss intellectual of literary memory, but a man haunted by grief and poisoned by ego. Isaac plays him with a volatile mix of scientific zeal and emotional rot. A man who mistakes control for redemption. Across from him stands Jacob Elordi's creature, a revelation of performance, painfully self-aware, yet pure in his confusion. Encased in Mike Hill's extraordinary makeup design, Elordi acts with his eyes, immense, terrified, searching, as though he's constantly encountering the cruelty of the world for the first time. Del Toro's visual imagination is, as always, a cathedral of contradictions. The production design by Tamara Deverell and the cinematography by Dan Laustsen render a world both decaying and divine. Laboratories as crypts, castles as tombs for ambition. Alexandre Desplat's score floats between sacred chant and funeral dirge, capturing the strange intersection of science and theology that defines the story. The film's central moral inquiry, who is the real monster, is staged not as a rhetorical question, but as a cinematic one. Every frame of the creature's isolation indicts its creator. Every act of violence is reflected back on the human impulse that birthed it. Del Toro's greatest achievement here is emotional symmetry. Victor's cruelty feels small beside the creature's capacity for empathy. What separates Frankenstein from its predecessors is its tenderness. The film doesn't seek to terrify, it seeks to mourn. It mourns the arrogance of enlightenment, the failures of parenthood, and the moral blindness of a species that invents before it understands. There are moments when it drifts. The final act wavers under its own grandeur, as though Del Toro cannot quite let go of his creation either. But even that imperfection feels thematically apt. Creation, after all, is never complete. The film's tagline could well be Shelley's epitaph: "Only monsters play God." Yet Del Toro reminds us that monstrosity is simply a reflection of what we fear to see in ourselves. His Frankenstein is, ultimately, not a warning, but an elegy, for the dream of perfection, for the cruelty of rejection, and for the fragile beauty of imperfection that defines both art and life. In the end, Del Toro doesn't just resurrect Shelley's myth, he resurrects her compassion. Frankenstein may be the most human monster movie ever made, and perhaps the most monstrous portrayal of humanity in years.